Didn't they send you the original?
He sent. You want me to use that scan?
Yeah, she
Okay.
said.
Good to go. Oh, I was saying $19. Okay, I'm on first. Tuesday, are you coming back?
Right, yeah, because I put it,
Okay,
Lisa said,
okay, okay. All right, yeah. So when you get there, okay, well, you can just, when you get there, just cancel the last thing.
because of the room,
Yeah, just cancel the last thing.
cause you had to say what, Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
So you just cancel the last thing, so you can come back on that day.
okay,
That's it. You have to, correct this here. This one?
Correction.
Yeah. Right here. Nice. Life at home and mine. Fine.
Right.
Okay. That's what you need to do something for you to get this. With, you get in the mix.
Which one is that? Oh, I got it.
You
Yeah,
got it?
yeah, the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay. That's,
And the town one,
mhm.
the town one.
That's gonna be for the night. She'll make that in. Yeah.
And that other one too.
Two resolutions.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's two
Resolution.
resolutions. They have, Vice Mayor Home District twice. So on the printed form, just make sure we change that
Okay.
to, Commissioner Walker's missing also on
Okay.
the roll call. Okay, we'll get started.
So it's two. Yeah.
Okay, City Attorney, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
City Clerk,
Yes, sir.
City Manager,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hill,
yes,
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Mervin.
yes.
Okay, we have a quorum. I call this workshop of Tuesday, February the 13th, 2018 at 6:04 p.m. to order. May we please stand for the invocation led by Mr. Bobby Coven, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you this night for this beautiful day that you've given, for this time that our city can come together to do its business. We just ask you to give our leaders, Lord, your wisdom in carrying forth what needs to be done for this city. Lord, let this be an orderly meeting, and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bab.
Present.
Vice Mayor Holmes. Commissioner Hill.
Present.
Commissioner Mervin.
Present.
Commissioner Walker. Present. City Manager.
Yep.
City Attorney.
Present?
Sergeant at Arms. City Clerk, present.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for attending our workshop of Tuesday, February the 13th, 2018. I also like to acknowledge the president of the South Bay City Manager, Campbell. Pleasure to have you here, sir. Always welcome. And thank each of you all for being here for this meeting. The topic of our workshop is our agenda. We're going to discuss our agenda, and hopefully we can have a smooth transition right into our regular meeting. I'm going to turn this portion over to our city manager so he can guide us in our agenda that's presented tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, residents of Pahokee, friends, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission. Been 3 weeks, so we're back here at it again, so let's get started. We have I always say a short agenda, but sometimes it ends up being just quite a bit longer sometimes based on our discussions and questions. We have currently 5 resolutions, 2 of them are add-ons. Some of it is just codifying some operations procedures that we're already doing in the city. Beginning with Resolution 2018-06. This is a municipal home rules resolution to support home rule. Home rule definition means the powers of local cities to have the authority to make their decisions independently from the state and federal government. Resolution 2018-07, that's Community Champions Corporation. That's a corporation that works in conjunction with our building, planning, and zoning to identify, as far as it comes to housing, the value of housing. It's just an outlet that we have at our access for building, planning, and zoning for when we're working with our residents as it comes to their tax base, the housing itself, identifying what type of housing that we have. It's sort of more of like a promotional tool that building, planning, and zoning has at their disposal. So going to continue that agreement. 2018-08, that is Pahokee Administrative Fee Schedule. We've talked about that for probably the last 2 years. We are really operating in the dinosaur years when it comes to some of our local fees, and we need to bring that into a modern era. And some of those fees are like when someone comes into City Hall and asks for a notary. Typical notary cost is $5. We are charging a minimum $2, and so those are just some small fees that we want to change to bring our fee schedule up to today's standards with other municipalities in Palm Beach County and really around the state, to be honest with you. And those fees will include fees in the clerk's office, city clerk's office, and building, planning, and zoning as well, just for clarity. Resolution 2018-09, that is the adoption of the Title I program. And 2018-10 resolution is our contract that we have with our auditors here in the city of Pahokee. I think Nolan Holt's been here about maybe 20 years, I want to say. I'm not quite sure, but they want to continue working as our auditors. They do a great job of ensuring that we are, one, expending the public's dollars appropriately, and also that we are adhering to all of those governmental standards when it comes to expenses, purchases, and therefore. And they work in very close proximity with our Director of Finance to ensure that she's complying by those standards as well. So we want to continue that contract for the 2017-2018 fiscal year with the City of Pahokee with Nolan and Holt. And that is our resolutions, Mayor. In addition, on old business, we have the Marina and Campground Restaurant on as old business, but I think when we get to additions, deletions, and approval, we need to remove Marina, Campground, and Restaurant. We're currently in a commercial bid on these 3 entities. There's no new news at this time. We're just awaiting for responses to the commercial bid. So we're sort of in a quiet zone right now. When we receive those bids and that closing date ends, and we begin to make our selection on the appropriate entity or individuals that will win this, who will be assigned this bid, then we can have conversations about it. I just don't see a need to have it on as old business tonight because there's nothing new or old except we got the commercial bid out, is being advertised, and so we are awaiting responses from those individuals that are interested in managing the campground, marina, and restaurant. And so that's at the pleasure of the commission, of course, but I would recommend that we remove that in additions, in add-ons and deletions. 246 East Main Street property, there's been some conversation about that. I guess I'll wait till that comes up to have a conversation about that in additions and deletions. And of course, we have new business. And I want to take a personal privilege right now at this moment, Mayor, if you give me two minutes. Lieutenant Piccolo will not be with us for 3 months. He has had the pleasure of being selected to go to a officer training school in Kentucky. And this particular school, Deputy, correct me if I'm wrong, it prepares you to be in those upper echelon leadership roles in law enforcement. So we want to congratulate him on that. Didn't have an opportunity to do that before he left and went away to Kentucky, but he'll be gone for 3 months. He will not be back until May. So in his place, we have Deputy Feeman here serving fully in his place, and he's hit the ground running so far. I've had 2 meetings with him to bring him up to date on the city of Pahokee and what we're working collectively with PBSO. And also in the audience, the gentleman that will be overseeing this area while Lieutenant Piccolo is gone is Sergeant Johnny Ortiz. Mr. Ortiz, will you please stand up? He doesn't want to say much. He just wants to be in the back. But he will be replacing Lieutenant Piccolo for the next 3 months in the district, running the operations for us. And we've had some great conversations. I think we met 3 times already to sort of get on the same page of what the expectations are, kind of filling the gaps where me and Lieutenant Piccolo were working collectively together. And we've addressed some recent issues, of course, over at the marina, and we've sort of got a handle on that. And so we really appreciate Sergeant Ortiz coming in and taking over and really hit the ground running as well as Deputy Feeman here. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for that personal privilege, Mayor, Commissioner.
Thank you.
In addition, Mayor, on March 13th is the next commission meeting after the last one in February. Most of us will be, or some of us will be at NLC, National League of Cities. That's our congressional conference, and that's also election day as well. And so this commission tonight needs to cancel the March 13th commission meeting at the pleasure of the commission, of course. So at this time, if there are any questions about the agenda, you certainly can have those. We can have a discussion, workshop some of these resolutions. I think they're formalities tonight. But you certainly are welcome to workshop them and ask questions as you feel is your pleasure.
Are there questions open to the audience as well? No. So we do not have any representative to discuss any questions about these resolutions before you pass them or not pass them?
We would allow you to ask a question. Actually, the resolution would be on the agenda. That's an agenda topic. You can fill out a card on any particular item that's going to be coming before the commission. Give you an opportunity to have some influence in our decision prior to making a vote.
So this is that, and that's my understanding that a workshop area is where the public is able to discuss these items. So that when it's, excuse me, sorry for the shake your head. Let me finish before you shake your head one more time. No disrespect. I'm sorry, I'm new to Pahokee and I'm not really sure about the
Right.
rules and other commission meetings and city meetings that I've been to. The workshop has always been typically the place where the public would come and make their comments so that you did not have to vote on it without our input.
Yeah, you'll get an opportunity, like I say, at the regular commission meeting, any agenda item you can speak on. Our workshop is really to kind of expedite our discussion during commission meeting to get some preliminary information out there so that the commission, if they have any question or concern, so the meeting can go a little smoother.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So at this time, are there any questions from the commission in our workshop on the resolutions? if it pleases the mayor and the commission, I can certainly go over the city manager's report. It's a very short report.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Myself and the city attorney have an opportunity to meet with the potential buyer of the old hospital on yesterday. It's with good news. We want to say that we were able to get some things achieved in selling the old hospital. As you know, we wanted a particular sales price for this entity, and we had an opportunity to meet with the potential buyer. He understands what the expectations are. If he decides to either renovate or demo this particular structure, he will particularly like to renovate it. And I don't want to get too deep into those specifics, but I will say that he has committed to the cost of what we're asking for. He has committed to what we expect as the operations of this facility if he is to renovate it. And he also understands that there is a timeline that he must adhere to once he receives the deed to move forward with the property. And so it was a good conversation. If the city attorney wants to expound on that in this report, he can, but this will take a process of another 2 to 3 weeks. We did ask for a down payment of about $75,000, and as we proceed with the administrative part of the sale, and we anticipate, hopefully, maybe sometime after the election, we'll have the final agreement and sale in hand, and we'll be moving forward with that particular project. What I wanted to ensure when we sold the old hospital is that we don't sell it to someone and it sits there for another 2 years, and then we're back to where we started. And so I was very clear with the potential buyer that there needs to be an aggressive time frame where they're going to renovate if they're committed to renovating or demolishing. And so with the city attorney's assistance, we advised them that this would be a deed restriction. I think we said that correctly, that they would have to adhere to ensuring that once they buy this facility, that they have to rapidly get started with renovating it and bringing it back to, you know, a viable entity for assisted living. We also had an agreement that we wanted a wing dedicated to a pediatrician. A lot of our parents have kids in this community, and when our kids get sick, we have to drive the 35 to 40 minutes over to Palms West to see a pediatrician most of the time. We want those doctors here in the city of Pahokee, and so we want a wing dedicated for children's care here in the city of Pahokee, and they were aware of that. Well, they weren't completely aware of that, but I reminded them the history of that hospital and why that's so important to this community to have children's care right here in Pahokee. And so we're hopeful that in the next couple of weeks we can come back and the commission can sign off on that agreement of selling that old hospital, and we can really make some changes in that area. In addition to that, I want to talk a little bit about Barfield Highway. I know as we all drive down Barfield Highway, you know that's a $4.6 million project that was awarded from the Florida Department of Transportation. And it's sort of gotten off the ground a little slow. That's more of a state project than a city project. They're sort of leading the way administratively on that project. I think the last update I received is pre-design and administrative work will run into June. And so that's quite a ways away, but I have expressed to the FDOT secretary that this was a priority for this scope of money for McClure a year and a half ago. Then we switched the money to Barfield because we know there's a critical need in the city to get Barfield fixed, and so we can't continue to kind of push the ball down the highway waiting on the administrative process to kind of clear its name so we can get to construction. So we're going to stay on it. We're going to continue pushing our District 4 FDOT down in Fort Lauderdale to get this project off the shelf as quick as possible because we do know, it just feels to me that Barfield Highway is just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's just not fair to our citizens here that it remains that way. So the quicker we can get that street, bulldozed and rebuilt, I think the happier most of the folks in here will be for Barfield Highway. So I just want to give you that quick update on that particular project because that's one of those projects that's outside of the realm of our regular legislative funding that we received in 2017. In addition to that, as you know, we have a grant manager in the Department of Community and Economic Development, And I wanted, she's not here tonight, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that department. We were able to secure over $200,000 in donated new sports equipment that will span the next 3 years here in the city of Pahokee, which means our kids at the city of Pahokee's Parks and Recs program will be getting donated new gear from different sports, whether it be equipment for football, sports bags. I saw cleats in one box. A variety of sports equipment will be donated to the City of Pahokee Parks and Recs program for the next 3 years. And again, that value is $200,000. There's only one catch. When they ship it to us, we have to pay the shipping. So I don't mind paying, $500 if I'm getting $20,000 in sports equipment. That's an investment well worth it here in the City of Pahokee for our kids. So I just want to announce that because the grants department has really hit the ground running here since she's come on board to that department, and you can see some of the results. And we got a couple other grants out there that we're working on that I think you'll be pleased. Subsequently, tomorrow I'll be meeting with a representative of Field Turf. Field Turf is one of the major companies that build artificial football fields, soccer fields. I have him on site here tomorrow. We're going to review our current football field here, and hopefully maybe figure out how we can fund on changing our grass field to an artificial turf. And once you see in NFL and other major colleges for football, soccer, and I think that's just one addition to hopefully securing the money for restarting the renovations on the gym that we can add to this campus. And I call it a campus because we rent to the school behind us, so I call this a campus because it's not just Parks and Recs. We have Everglades Prep here as well. So that's just an exploratory meeting that I have with the gentleman out of Orlando, but it's just something that came to me recently, and it came to me recently because as of last week, the city of Pahokee was awarded from the county $315,000. And that is designed for streets, roads, shovel-ready projects that we deem necessary for the city of Pahokee. So we just added another $300,000 on top of the funding that we received about 7 months ago from the state legislature. So those are results of the grant office working. Those are results of that department really putting their feet to the ground and staying focused on what this community needs. And that's important when you have individuals that really care about their community and they're able to express that in their efforts in their work. So we're excited about that. The old water plant, it doesn't look like it, but if you kind of peek around the rear side of the old water plant, they have several pieces of heavy equipment on site. They're doing some last minute asbestos research. Once that's completed, we anticipate that'll probably be completed in another week. You'll see some real activity of the old water plant being demoed, but they're slowly putting their heavy equipment on site right now. They're putting it in the rear of the building, and once they really start moving forward, they're going to clear it out pretty quick, and so we're excited about that. Again, that was funded at $599,000 from the Solid Waste Authority, so we're excited about that. And we're also now applying for the 2018 demolition grant for other things that we want to demo in the city of Pahokee. And so hopefully we're successful again this year from the Solid Waste Authority in demolition dollars. I did not take the privilege last week, but I wanted to mention publicly that our former Commissioner Viggs lost her home. We didn't bring that up, but we're hopefully praying that she recovers fairly quickly. The city is trying to assist her as much as possible in our means to ensure that she receives the right type of services through her insurance and her fire insurance and so forth to ensure that she gets back to her home and it gets rebuilt. But she's doing well, but she is having some difficulty, because when you get displaced from your home, you're going to have some difficulty. And hopefully, her family, she has some family that lives in different states, but she is doing okay. I spoke with her earlier last week, and she's doing well. But I just wanted to, publicly announce that and let everyone know that she's doing well, and she's recovered, and she was lucky that, even though she was in the home, she was very lucky and blessed that she was able to get out. And so if you see her around town, please, express your concern, and if you can help as well, that's welcome. So,
While you mentioned that, City Manager, there also going to be a beneficial program for former Commissioner Biggs at the New Hope Church on this Saturday, February the 17th at 6 p.m. So the public can attend that and maybe give some type of donation or just show your support for her recovery.
that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, City Manager.
Yeah. You know what? Let me stop. I want to show a video, and I want to do it now because I know we're going to get into our regular agenda here, if I may. It's 2 minutes, maybe it's 3 minutes. And this was $27,000 in funding that we secured last legislative session to do a documentary on the 1928 storm. This particular video is now on our website. It's not an advertising piece. It's an informational piece about the history of that storm and the perseverance that this city displayed during that time. So if I can get 2 more minutes here, I want to show that video because we've installed that on our website, and it's something that visitors, residents, everyone can look at and really understand that time in history and how important it is that we remember it. So, Maestro.
Along the southeast shore of Lake Okeechobee, in southern Florida, lies the city of Pahokee. Pahokee is part of a vast region, the Everglades agricultural area, usually referred to as simply the Glades, whose farms contribute a wide variety of crops that, during South Florida's long winter growing season, provide about half of the nation's vegetables. Lake O, as most locals call it, provides irrigation for many of these crops. The lake's name is based on the Native American Seminoles language, Okie, water, and Chubby, big. In other words, big water. With 730 square miles of surface, the lake is appropriately named. Lake O gives sustenance to agriculture and to a variety of fish, such as bass and catfish. Unfortunately, once in a while, its wide waters churn and heave when a hurricane passes, either directly over the huge lake or close to it. This is the story of one such storm.
My name is Lucille Salvatore Heron, and I'm here to tell you about the 28 hurricane, what I remember, because I was a small child. And I was 2 years and 4 months and 2 weeks, but I do remember some things on my own, and some things I remember because they've told me. But I do remember the night of the 28 hurricane. It was very cold and very dark and very wet and very windy, and we were walking in the dark, and the wind was just beating in the face, and we finally came to a house, and I noticed that the floor was slanted, and 2 arms lifted me up, and 2 arms came down and pulled me up, and I guess I went to sleep because that's what I remember of the actual night.
She came suddenly and severely, no warning. The wind rose to 50 to 160. They tore away all measuring instruments. Banshees screamed in the pitch black night. They found the first bodies early Monday morning, 2 children, Raymond and Lucy Martin. It was all as if the devil in hell was shouting in our ears.
The second most deadly hurricane ever to hit the United States began life on September 6, 1928, as a disturbance off the west coast of Africa. By the time it slammed into West Palm Beach on September 16th, the hurricane of 1928, as it's generally known, had killed more than 1,600 people in the Caribbean, but its fury was far from spent.
Our family lived in Pahokee. I remember my cousin, Blanche Armstrong, driving into our yard saying that a bad storm was coming and that we needed to go to West Palm Beach.
Well, we got up that Saturday morning and it was raining all day long. And my mother decided it'd be a nice day to iron. And my daddy would come in and they'd talk about it. I didn't know what they were talking about. And he'd go uptown and he said, there's a storm. All he had, I guess, was Western Union. And he'd come home and tell us, oh, it's coming, you know. And finally, just before dark, he said, it's coming here. We've got to do something. So they got 2x4s and braced the house. It was a very small house. And that's all we did. And it hit, and we was going to stay in the house. And he said, well, it's going to go. We've got to leave. They couldn't open the door because the house had moved. And that's the only time I really felt any anxiety. But they got the door open, and of course, after we got out in the storm, it was just, you didn't see or hear anything but the wind. And there was a ditch between us and the road, a little canal where they dug to make the road. And it had a bridge on it, so they had to find the bridge to get across it. And I know they said, well, we'll stay in this big tree. Then they said, no, we better not. So they kept going, and they couldn't find the bridge, and Daddy fell in the canal with holding me and my sister, older sister, and got out, so they put us under the rubber tree till they found the bridge.
I was 3 years old, but I remember that when the hurricane came, it just tore down everything we had. We didn't have nowhere to go. Matters of fact, we didn't have clothes to put on.
As the storm moved northwest, it passed directly over Lake Okeechobee. The counterclockwise motion of the 145-mile-per-hour sustained winds forced billions of gallons of water to the south. That built up immense pressure on the weak 6 to 8 foot high levee, which consisted mainly of muck soil and rocks. The levee soon failed. The resulting rush of water washed away commercial buildings and hundreds of houses, many of them not much more than shacks, and flooded hundreds of
Mission meeting. Site, and we're excited to have that done. That was professionally done, and it was a grant secured through the state of Florida in our last legislative session. Actually, the legislative session before that, it just took a year to get it developed. But we'll finish that video here hopefully this evening. I don't want to take away from our official meeting. It's about 16 minutes long. And if you don't want to sit through this entire meeting tonight, you're certainly welcome to go to our website. It's uploaded there, and it'll remain there as a historical piece to review as long as our website is up and running. And again, it's something that we need to be very proud of because it commemorates that time in history and also talks about what happened with all the construction with the dike and why there's a construction going on now, currently in 2018, you know, so many years later. So again, that was a good funded project that we got from the historical department there in Tallahassee. So we'll finish that hopefully if we have time later in this commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now adjourn this workshop of Tuesday, February 2018. We're going to move right into our regular commission meeting. Would you please stand for the invocation led by Bobby Calvin, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, again, we come to you, Lord, for the city of Pahokee. And Lord, you see the business before this committee, this commission. We ask you, God, to give our leaders wisdom as they lead our city forward. Bless this meeting, we pray, and give us your, Lord, be with us, and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Babb,
Present.
Vice Mayor Holmes. Yes. Commissioner Hill. Present. Commissioner Mervin.
Present.
Commissioner Walker. Present. City Manager.
Present.
City Attorney.
Present.
Deputy Feedman.
Yes, ma'am.
City Clerk. Present.
Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. And thank each of you all for being here tonight to take part in our regular commission meeting of Tuesday, February the 13th, 2018. Also like to just recognize South Bay City Manager, Mr. Campbell. Pleasure to see you, sir. Always welcome. Thank you for coming. We're going to move right into our agenda, starting with the additions, deletions, and approval of our agenda items. Are there any additions?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution 2018-09, resolution of the City Commission, City of Pahokee, authorizing the adoption of Title V program. That's an add-on. Resolution 2018-10, that's the contract with our auditors, Nolan and Hort and Minor, PA, City of Pahokee agreement. And deletion is Marina Campground and Restaurant. Currently, again, we have a commercial bid publicly being advertised for the Marina Campground and Restaurant. There's really no new news there. We did get the commercial bid out appropriately. It's being advertised on our website. It was advertised locally in the newspaper, and so we are sitting patiently waiting for those responses to come in from individuals, groups, or corporations who want to show interest in the campground and marina. So there's no new news there, so I see no reason why we need to have that on the agenda for tonight.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a deletion, deletion of 246 East Main Street property.
Okay.
Okay, second.
We can take them all at once unless we're gonna be, unless someone have an objection to any of these deletion of additions.
I would like why.
If I'm not mistaken, we got the attorney here, right? Deleting it.
It still can come up. This is actually was for the sale of the property. Since we have a person who has interest in that particular property running for office, just felt it would be appropriate to wait till after the election so there won't be any conflicts or any perceived bias with the discussion of that property sale. And again, that won't be but until our next commission meeting as for the delay.
Attorney need to say something.
Yes, 'cause look, wait a minute, let me say something, wait, please. I saw the city manager at the property last week. So why are we talking about it?
Okay, again, this motion is only to delete this item from the agenda, that we won't talk about or entertain the selling of the property
Okay,
at this
selling,
particular meeting, right?
I guess I
Right.
can go
But if the
with that.
attorney's here, if he want to speak on it, he can do a comment card. The property owners can do a comment card. I mean, say the property leaser can do a comment card, or anyone in the audience. But it just won't be an official topic because we're not going to make any official action as far as the sale of the property. We would allow you to speak, Ms. Montgomery, on the comment section, and that's right at the top of our agenda.
Well, you're taking something off the agenda, and the only reason why I'm here is because it's on the agenda.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
You'll still be able to speak on it. If you put out a card and you want to speak on that item, you can. But this commission, what we're doing, we're not going to be voting or making any action on the sale of the property.
My client cannot run for city commission. My client is a corporation.
Okay. Since we do have an attorney here and they want to speak on this, I have no problem with that. It's just up to the commission whether or not we do have a motion. Let's take that singly by itself. We have a motion by Commissioner Mervin to delete that particular item off for this particular agenda. Do we have a second? If so, we'll discuss it. If not, it will remain on the agenda. Okay.
She got too much, she should excuse.
Commissioner
she
Vice
should-
Mayor Holmes,
She should excuse herself.
let's
She's involved in this.
let's speak in order. We have a motion by Commissioner Mervin, second by Commissioner Hill.
Mayor, the question, I have, the reason why 246 East Main Street should be deleted off of the agenda for tonight as for the discussion of the sale of the property, due to the fact is, the candidate that's running and this property is at question, not just here, but also with the supervisor of election. So I don't think we should be discussing the sale of this property right now until after the election. That's it. And that's on just until the next, commission meeting.
Commissioner Walker.
I want to hear from the attorney. Attorney.
Ma'am, what would you like me to address? The commission has the right to take items off their agenda if they feel like that it's appropriate to do so. It's by majority vote. There's been a motion and a second to take an item off the agenda, and that's an appropriate motion for this evening.
I got a question on you, attorney. Shouldn't Hill recuse herself?
No.
She should not be making a second on this.
No, I don't believe
because
there is.
She's involved in this.
I do not believe there's a conflict of interest on the sale of the property.
No. That's what I'm saying, though, it should be allowed.
Not the sale,
How am I involved in
not the sale.
attorney?
There is not a conflict of interest. You can vote on it.
It's a conflict of interest, but she's the one.
Ma'am, ma'am, you're out of order.
Yes, I am.
You're out of order.
I am out of order.
Second warning, Ms. Perez. Please, the commission is speaking, deliberating on a motion. We need to have the audience, if you can, reduce your comments and conversation.
Could I finish speaking?
Yes, Commissioner.
Mayor, you're the mayor of this city, and you should not run this meeting like this. This is wrong the way you're running this. You should not do this. You know this bias.
We're speaking.
You know this bias.
We're speaking on the motion. I'm not sure what's the discussion about
If you're
how
not
I'm
sure,
running.
you've lost it.
Okay. Any additional questions? Hearing none again, we have a motion and a second on the floor to delete the item number 2 on the old business, the sale of the East Main Street property. Hearing no additional question, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Holmes,
Absolutely not.
Commissioner Walker,
No.
Mayor Bab.
No. Okay, motion failed. We'll be discussing the property, whether it's gonna be sold or not. And that was based on the attorney and the business owners being here. Okay. Any additions or deletions in addition to what we have already discussed? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented with the add-ons and the deletions.
For the peace of sake, I would say yes. Cause I have a concern, but I don't want, I don't want this preach at night. I would,
I'm going to present one amendment to the agenda, the discussion of the cancellation of the March 13, 2018 regular city commission meeting. I would like to have that added on the agenda. We didn't publicly announce that we were going to do that or discuss it. We did at workshop. So the cancellation of the March 13 agenda, I'm saying commission meeting, we're going to be canceling that meeting due to the election.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to add that on. Again, we have two add-ons, Resolution 2018-09, Resolution 2018-010. We're going to also be removing the Marina Campground and Restaurant from the agenda. The property at 246 East Main Street will remain on the agenda. And I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented with the add-ons and deletions.
I make a motion that we accept the agenda, the add-ons and the deletions.
Looking for a second.
I second it.
Okay, been moved by Vice Mayor Holmes and properly second by Commissioner Walker to accept the agenda with the add-ons and the deletions as stated previously. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Mervin?
Yes.
Mayor Bat?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, could you ask everyone to please pull their microphones closer?
Thank you, City Attorney. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The agenda items are accepted as presented. Now we're moving to citizen comments, agenda items only. You must have a comment card completed. Are there any comment cards, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. We have Miss Catherine. I can't see her last name. Marvez.
9 kids in my family, I'm used to whichever one you are. Not insulted. Thank you for hearing me again, and thank you for putting up with my lack of knowledge. I do apologize for shouting out for you to no shaking, but I grew up in a family where if you did that, you saw the backside of a hand, and it's just stuck to me. So, what I wanted to ask about the resolution 2018-06, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that resolution in its entirety. So I just wanted to ask a question. From what I'm reading here, it seems like we're trying to remove ourselves from the state's influence into how the city of Pahokee uses its finances, how it spends its money to the benefit. Is that correct?
Ma'am, actually, that is a resolution that has circulated all the municipalities in Palm Beach County. I don't know if you're aware or not, but one thing that happens in Tallahassee every legislative session is there is an attack on home rule, which means when there's an attack on home rule, they want to somehow develop new legislative laws from the state that ties the hands of local municipalities. So collectively, all the municipalities in Palm Beach County are approving this resolution to say, no, we don't approve of that, as a support mechanism to the opposition of what's occurring in the conversation in Tallahassee. So we're not removing ourselves from any particular operation of the state. We're just saying don't trample on our city rights to govern ourselves.
Okay, and I guess my question was, and the only reason that I wrote the comment card is I just wanted to make sure that that there was still going to be some process of checks and balances, so that you as a group who are representing the city, not necessarily saying that the state of Florida is the best checks and balances, but you need checks and balances everywhere. So I was a little confused whether or not this was just a protest, or if this was an actual vote that is allowing you to remove yourself from the watch of the state of Florida.
Right. No, ma'am, it's more of a supporting document that all the municipalities are adopting to ensure that those who are fighting against ending home rule, that we have some supporting documentation to say to our legislative body that you cannot remove some of our collective municipal rights to govern ourselves. But as far as the protocols for the way we do our business, our charter, our ordinances, those protocols are not being challenged.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure, thank you.
Are there any additional comment card, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Miss Annie Core.
Yes, my name is Annie Core, and my concern is about the marina. I wanted to understand the way you were saying that it was going to be bidded on. Isn't that? And I was wanting to understand, after it get bid on, is it the, how would I say? Is it the one that have greater than the other compliance? Do you do like a background check to see is that the right person for that place?
To the attorney.
Because we had went through a lot of stuff with that marina.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to understand, when you guys make decision, make sure you make the right decision. Because there's been a lot of wrong decisions being made and a lot of money being spent. Now, what I'm saying is, the person that you guys are persons that you guys gonna submit this to, make sure that they are staying, and make sure that they are, how would I say, that financially right, stable, and that they and no hidden agenda, and they are for the people, not just for the dollar. You feel me?
Yes, ma'am.
Because every time they come here, they leave without money, and that's you know, we tired. I'm a taxpayer also. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Are there any additional comments card, Madam Clerk?
That'll be all. No,
Thank-
sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving to our public service announcement, you also have to have a comment card
It's not an
completed
agenda item.
to make an announcement. Are there any public service announcement, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Approve of the minutes. We don't have any minutes to approve. Consent agenda items. We don't have any consent agenda items. Ordinance, no ordinance. Resolution 2018-06, City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, opposing legislative efforts to impede the constitutional right Florida's citizens have enjoyed for nearly 50 years to govern themselves under the municipal home rule powers, opposing the legislature's persistent intrusion into local finances, which are necessary to provide financial stability and essential services uniquely required by municipal residents and local businesses, directing city administration to transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the Florida League of Cities, the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation, and any other interested parties, providing for conflicts, severability, and effective date.
Thank you, City Attorney. Commissioners, having had Resolution 2018-06 properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
I motion to adopt resolution 2018-06.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of Resolution 2018-06. Call for questions. Hearing none. Are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker? Yes. Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-06 passes by a unanimous vote. Next, we have Resolution 2018-07, City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee authorizing and directing the mayor to execute Amendment Number 2 to the agreement between the City of Pahokee and Community Champions Corporation. As the city manager previously explained, the Community Champions Corporation keeps track of all foreclosures in the city and provides a source of funding to the city as well.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2018-07 properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2018-07.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Holmes and properly seconded by Commissioner Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2018-07. Call for questions. Hearing none. Are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker? Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-07 passes by unanimous vote. Now we have Resolution 2018-08. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, Resolution 2018-08 is a resolution of the City Commission of Pahokee authorizing an amendment to the Pahokee's administrative fee schedule, which the city manager can explain.
All right. Commission, this is a fee change of some of our nominal fees that we have in the city. One is our notary fee. Someone walks into City Hall, wants to do a notary. We're changing that fee from $2 to $5. Copy of a deed, typically there is a charge. There is no charge that we're charging currently right now. Lien searches, $50, we moved to $60. Return check fee. Currently, we don't have a return check fee. We experience that quite often, and so we want to ensure that we have some protection measures in place on return check fees. Most businesses have it. We didn't have it, so we need to install that. Most check fees are about $45, $50, but we're recommending a recommendation of $35. Credit card processing fee. Now, we didn't accept credit cards and debit cards in City Hall, and we wanted to have that option to our residents because everyone doesn't walk around with cash. And so if they had the opportunity to pay for fees with their check card or debit card, that will limit, you know, the necessity or the burden to always have cash. We're accepting upwards to over $1,000 in some payments if it's a funeral out at Port Mayaka. And one of the risk with seeing that amount of cash all the time is the opportunity for theft. Not saying we have that, but if we can install a credit card and debit card processing system, we then can retract the amount of money that we can accept over the counter to a nominal amount where we don't see a lot of cash coming in, and that's a better risk protection factor for our financial department than previous. And so we do currently now we are accepting credit cards and debit cards in City Hall, but there's always that 3% charge for processing, so that's $3. And something that's occurred recently when we redid our flood maps for this district, now residents are requesting that building planning and zoning and our contracted building inspectors provide flood certifications letters. Typically, most municipalities who are incurring this new activity are charging upwards to like $75 in that certification letter. We haven't seen many of them, but we want to ensure that when we have to supply those types of letters to individuals, that the city is able to recruit some of the administrative costs for that. So that's at $60. And currently, that's it. We have two notaries in City Hall, our city clerk and Ms. Polanco. And so when one's not available, the other one can do notaries. We just wanted to change some of these fees because we realized that a lot of our nominal fees were years behind in most municipalities in what they charge. And so we did some research and wanted to ensure that we were fair and accurate in our assessments. And so we're recommending these changes in our fee schedule.
Excuse me, Mayor. The young lady with child, it's a seat up here, but you can sit down. I was actually talking with the one that was pregnant. Yes. Oh,
So,
that's okay.
so yeah, so that's the explanation for the resolution. Nominal fee changes, Mayor.
So we have a second,
You're welcome.
motion and second.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
No, sir, not
good.
yet.
Okay, thank you, city manager. Thank you, city attorney. Commissioners, having had resolution 2018-08 properly read into the minutes, entertain a motion for the adoption.
Well, it's necessary that we adjust our prices, so I make a motion that we adopt 2018-08.
Second motion.
Been moved by Vice Mayor Holmes and properly second by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of resolution 2018-8. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-08 passes unanimously. Now we have Resolution 2018-09. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of Pahokee authorizing an adoption of the Title VI program. This resolution certifies the city's compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the guidelines of the FTA. The city is a subrecipient of FTA funds, and the city uses those funds mostly for your seniors wellness program and for the transportation needs of seniors, which currently is serving 25 seniors.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2018-09 properly read into the minutes, with your pleasure, I entertain a motion for adoption.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2018-09.
A second.
Been moved by Commissioner Hill and properly second by Commissioner Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2018-09. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Mervin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-09 passes unanimously. Now we have Resolution 2018-10.
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of Pahokee authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the agreement between Nolan, Holt, and Minor, PA, and the City of Pahokee for the purpose of financial audit services for the city's accounts.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2018-10 properly read into the minutes. What's your pleasure? I will entertain a motion for adoption.
I motion to adopt resolution 2018-10.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of Resolution 2018-10.
I have a question, Mayor.
Call for questions.
What is the fee now that we pay them? Oh, okay, I see it.
You see it?
I see
Okay.
it. Okay, I see it.
Any additional questions?
What do you think?
She saw the fee that was being charged for the annual audit, so she didn't need to have that question asked. That was her question.
What is,
It's on page 7.
20.
let me see it.
Commissioner Walker.
All the way in the back.
It's 26,000 a year for those audit services.
Huh?
26,000 a year for those audit services.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Are there, thank you. Are there any additional questions? Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-10 passes unanimously. Public hearings, we have none. Proclamations, we have one proclamation, Pink Shirt Day. City Attorney, could you read that into the minutes?
Mr. Mayor, this is proclamation of Pink Shirt Day. Whereas children who are targets of bullying are more likely to acquire physical, emotional, and learning disorders, and whereas children who are repeatedly bullied often fear daily activities such as riding the bus, going to school, and participating in community activities. Whereas children who bully others are at a greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behavior. And whereas children, parents, educators, schools, police, out-of-school time programs, and community leaders all have a responsible role to play in raising awareness of bullying and its demoralizing effects on youth in the community. And whereas the Literacy Coalition of Palm Beach Counties Turning Bullies into Buddies program, with significant funding from Primetime Palm Beach County, Inc., the Children's Services Council of Palm Beach County, in partnership with the School District of Palm Beach County, Palm Beach County Youth Services Department, and numerous child-serving community organizations provide high-quality, positive, anti-bullying youth development learning opportunities to help them cope with and reduce the effects of bullying. And whereas Palm Beach County recognizes the importance of eradicating bullying behavior by proclaiming February 28, 2018 as Pink Shirt Day, one of the many activities scheduled for the month of February 2018 as part of Bullying Awareness and Prevention Month, and ask all citizens to join us by wearing pink on this day in support of bullying prevention. Now therefore be resolved on the behalf of the City Commission and the citizens of Pahokee, by virtue of the authority vested in the Mayor of Pahokee, to hereby proclaim February 28, 2018 as Pink Shirt Day.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Commissioners haven't had proclamation read into the minutes. What's your pleasure?
I adopt the proclamation for the Pink Shirt Day.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Mervin and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Holmes for the adoption of the proclamation of Pink Shirt Day on February the 28th. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Mervin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. And I encourage all citizens, along with the City Commission, to wear your pink shirt on February the 28th in support of this proclamation. We have no presentations. We're now going to the mayor report. On March 10th, 2018, I will be attending the 5th annual Mayor's Ball at the Palm Beach County Convention Center. This is a ball that held every year in support of the Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County. Also, from March 11th through March 14th, I'll be attending the National League Annual Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C., along with our city manager and currently Commissioner Mervin. Also, Glades, I've been speaking with Glades Collision and Paint, Auto Paint and Body Shop about doing something for our youth. They want to sponsor a program or an event. I don't know if our recreation director here, but we can pass this on to our city manager. If we can come up with some type of event, a social cookout for maybe our athletic league, some form of activity for our youth, they would sponsor it for us. So that's something we would like to look into. Also, our local Hall of Famer, Ricky Jackson, has also asked to do something for our youth, and he wants to take 20 youth and 4 coaches or chaperones to the Hall of Fame ceremony. I think that's going to be in August. One of the things I suggested that maybe we can take 10 youth from our city program and maybe 10 from the high school. So we just need some coordination there. Again, that would be something that city manager and his staff can look at, selecting 10 youth and kind of getting the information of what we need to move forward on that. Also, New Macedonia Church is inviting the public and the city commission to their new pastoral installation ceremony on Sunday, February the 18th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're just going to encourage the public and our commissioners to attend that ceremony if they can. And also the city manager indicated earlier there will be a benefit program for former Commissioner Allie Biggs at New Hope Church this Saturday at 6 p.m. So the public is cordially invited to attend that program in support of our former Commissioner Allie Biggs, who lost her house in a fire. All her property and her house was destroyed. So we just want to give our support to her. That's the end of my report. We'll move to our city manager report. City Manager Chandler.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission, citizens, visitors. Thanks for coming out tonight. One thing I left out of my report in our workshop is the Old Pahokee High School project. I did have someone assess that project to get a more detailed understanding what's required to renovate this particular National Historic, this building that's on the National Historic Registry. And what we want to do currently with some of our surtax dollars is, one, we want to redesign the landscape. Of course, we want to paint the building right now and seal it until we secure additional funds to do the internal work. I really want to get started on this project because it is an eyesore, and we have enough funds to move forward and make it look really nice externally right now as we continue to research grant funding to do the external renovations and whatever we want to develop it as. So I did have a couple of agencies on site last week to review and give some types of some preliminary scopes of work of what it take to, one, seal the building, two, review the roofing and do a nice aesthetic paint job on the external part. And then we're going to bring in a landscaper, a couple of landscape groups next week, just to give me some scopes of work on what to anticipate as far as cost. And then once that's secured, we'll go out for bid on this project and we'll get started on the Old Pahokee High School external renovations, hopefully by the end of March. Well, not started, but at least getting a bid out to begin the renovations thereafter. I may mention earlier for our Parks and Recs, we've secured over $200,000 for donation for sports equipment that will expand over the next 2 to 3 years. It's donated, and we'll be getting all types of sports equipment from cleats, football protection gear, jerseys, traveling bags, any types of equipment that's attached to our sports and recs programs will be getting donated from a particular entity over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's significant because that means it saves us on dollars in buying sports equipment for our kids at Parks and Recs. And again, over the next 2 years, that value is about $200,000 in sports equipment. May not sound like a lot of money, but the things that I've seen that they've already shipped to us, once we release that to the Parks and Recs department, it certainly is gonna help their budget and not having to go out and expend money on those small things that they need for their track team, football team, and basketball team, and things they utilize on site for the after-school program. So that's a credit to our grant department for that. Earlier, I mentioned at the old hospital, we had a meeting with the potential buyer on yesterday. Those conversations went very well. We anticipate that we can close on this hospital in the next 2 to 3 weeks, barring there are no other particular questions from his legal representation once he secured them. And hopefully we can come back immediately in the next 2 to 3 weeks, probably after the election, and make a recommendation to close on that sale of that hospital. I'll reserve the conversation on the cost until we can secure a total agreement. Subsequently, some of you who were not in the workshop, some of the prerequisites that we discussed with this potential buyer is we didn't want to sell it and it just sits there for another 2 years collecting dust and being an eyesore. So we wanted to ensure that this potential buyer understands that once he secures the building, that he has to start immediately with the repairs. And as most of us know, there's some significant repairs that must be done to bring this particular entity back to a viable structure that you can be utilized for assisted living. I think that's one of the conversations. And of course, I expound to him that it's very important that we retain some of those services for our kids. We need healthcare services for our kids as far as pediatricians are concerned, particularly when our kids get sick now. We don't have a pediatrician here in this city. They have to travel outside the city. So we were able to have a fluid discussion about dedicating at least a wing for kids and having a pediatrician here in this city for our kids and our parents to utilize. And so they were very excited and committed to ensuring that parts of this new facility will be dedicated for pediatric care here in the city of Pahokee. And so we'll continue that conversation with their attorney. But as I said before, we anticipate that we will get this sale completed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I can assure you that once they take over, they will rapidly begin cleaning the property and start restorations on the building. So we're excited about that. Mayor, that completes my report from the workshop.
Thank
Any
you.
additional questions?
Thank you, City Manager. Commissioner, are there any questions for the City Manager? I have two brief ones. We talked about the possibility of seeking grants for the football field, looking at artificial turf. One of the things I like for staff to consider is purchasing some bleachers out there. That's a real need for the program.
We're planning to purchase seating before this upcoming football season. I was trying to hold that back from the director. I didn't want to tell him too soon, but we do plan to purchase significant seating for our football team here in Pahokee before the football season starts.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And speaking of the $200,000 donation that the Park and Recreation will be receiving over the next 2 to 3 years, I would like, if we can, maybe pass some of that on to our actual participants in the form of a reduced fee. I know we have minimum charges for most of our program, but in light of getting these funds, even if it's a $5 to $10 to $20 reduction in whatever fee over the next year or two, if we could pass that on, if it's possible.
Yes, sir.
Again, are there any questions for the city manager? Thank you, city manager. Now we'll move to our city attorney report. City attorney?
I have no report this evening.
Thank you, sir. And we're going to move to old business. We removed the Marina Campground and Restaurant off of the agenda. We're now up to the property on East Main Street, the discussion of that property. City attorney, city manager, would you kind of lead us into this? The original agenda was presented with this item on there. The city commission voted to have it remain on there. So we're going to go ahead with the discussion of this item.
Just to lead into the city attorney's discussion here, I know we have an attorney in the audience to discuss this matter. I certainly would like to see this particular building certainly renovated beyond what's already occurred. The particular tenant we have there has did some significant improvements. As you know, we provided the pictures on how the structure looked before and after. There are some plans if this particular tenant was to purchase the building to make it into a car museum. And certainly, you know, if that's a vision, that's certainly something that could, you know, we could have a commitment to and would like to see in the city of Pahokee. I don't want to get deep into the conversations of who makes those decisions, because I don't. But it's good that on one hand that we have folks that want to invest in this city. And I had that opportunity to speak with someone this morning, particularly not on this issue, but for housing, they're buying one of the old, they have purchased one of the old rental units on Rodden. And I sort of questioned it at first, and I thought the building could not be renovated, could not be restored. But I had a conversation with the owners who purchased it, directly for about an hour and a half this morning. And they don't just do this, here in Pahokee. They've done it in Miami and all these other places. So me personally, I want to support whoever wants to come in the city and redevelop it and make it a better place to live and raise kids, work, and just make it a better community. And so conversation tonight is about this particular entity and what can happen with it if it's sold. And we have to take a serious look at that and what it can become if Mr. Perez is able to bring that to restoration, to his vision of it being a better a place for us to look at on Main Street. And so that's my input into it. I've seen some of the renovations from how it looked before and how it looks now. And there were significant improvements. And I think the city attorney is going to talk more about what this particular offer is for this entity, for the sale to move forward for this entity. And again, we have the legal representation here, and I know he'll be speaking on it as well. One thing I'm for is for investment and revitalizing the city, and that's what we have to remain focused on in the city of Pahokee, regardless of who it is. We have to make those decisions carefully and with a clear conscience about moving this city forward, and that's important for this commission to remember here tonight, the importance of moving this city forward, regardless of who it is. We can't look at it with a bias. We got to look at it with a clear lens and make real decisions about the city of Pahokee, and that's my comments.
Okay, City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, at your last commission meeting, the city manager passed out a lot of information regarding this property so that you could have time to take a look at it. As you know, it's currently under lease, and that lease is about to end. The commission has the authority to sell it to the leasee if you desire to do so, but you do not have to sell it to them. And no price has been determined or negotiated between the city and the leasee at this point. That's where we stand on it. There's no sale or purchase agreement either in draft form or contemplated at this point until the board instructs me to do whatever you decide to do with it.
Okay, City Commissions, we kind of heard the preliminary information on this. We need to make a decision. I don't know if we're going to make it tonight, but the conversation would be whether or not we want to sell the property and for what amount. We have gotten some appraisal amounts for the property. Mr. Perez had indicated that he has made significant improvement there and would like to have some benefits from that as a reduced amount. For instance, if the property is valued at, I'm just throwing this out, $200,000, and he have put in $100,000, his offer or suggestion would be to sell it for $100,000, reduce the $100,000 he have already put in. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but that's part of the conversation. Are we going to sell the property to Mr. Perez or offer to sell it to him? And then are we willing to have the city attorney negotiate some type of reduction based on what he have put in the property over the years?
Mr. Mayor, may I speak?
Yes, sir, you may.
Commissioners, This property sat vacant after it was donated to the city for a period of 5 years. Okeechobee Land agreed to lease the property, put money into it, and Okeechobee Land has an option to buy the property, and Okeechobee Land has exercised that option by presenting a letter to you requesting the right to purchase it. We believe that the city has no option but to sell to Okeechobee Land. In addition to that, be mindful of the fact that Okeechobee Land has paid the city over $125,000 over the last 10 years. They put $125,000 into the property to bring it up to code. We're only asking that Okeechobee Land be given the option that's in the lease to purchase the property. The lease has been recorded at Palm Beach County Clerk's Office, and the lease of record indicates that option does exist, and that Pahokee has no other option but to sell it or continue to rent it.
Could I stop you there, Ms. Montgomery, just for 1 minute? Our city attorney looked at the lease, and he has determined that although there's an option there, we don't have to exercise that and offer the property for sale to Ms. Perez. That's where the agreement has started at this point. Just wanted you to be clear on that. I know you're indicating to the commission that we have no choice but to sell.
Well,
Our city attorney is telling us otherwise.
you have a choice to abide by the contract or breach the contract. And in my opinion, if you do not allow the exercise of the option, you are breaching the contract. Two people who are involved in a contract can abide by it, or they cannot abide by it. The only thing Mr. Perez and his corporation is asking is that he invested over 12 years, $125,000. And in essence, what you're saying is, you improve this property, we're gonna take it, and we're gonna sell it to somebody else, and the hell away with the $125,000 you put into the property. My client wants the property, he wants the benefit of his investment, it's benefited the city, it's put $125,000 in your coffers by way of rent, and now it's time for you to make a decision to abide by this particular contract. Now, I understand he didn't draft it. Another city attorney drafted it. But it's still binding, it's still recorded, and I will submit that we're asking that you vote to allow him to exercise his option, and Mr. Vandenberg and I and my client will negotiate an ultimate contract with the city manager.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's proceed this way. Mr. Perez has offered to exercise his right as an option to purchase a property. Our first decision as a commission is whether or not we want to sell the property at this time. Our city attorney has indicated that we don't have to sell it. Mr. Montgomery has indicated that under the contract, we should, and it's our rights to sell. So before we go on any further, I'm gonna first entertain a motion. Prior to that, I want to ask the city manager what would be his recommendation as far as selling the property at this time.
Well, I had to take the lead from the city attorney about where we are currently, and looking at where we are as it pertains to what that contract is reading, and where we are currently with another issue in this city, and also what Mr. Montgomery is saying here is that we're confined to selling the property. I'm not the attorney, and I don't get into those weeds, and I had to resort back to the city attorney to give me a clarification on what option means, because it appears that option is they have a right to purchase this property at this time, and we have an obligation to sell it, as far as Mr. Montgomery is saying. I've done an assessment of some of the properties, and there's been a concerted effort to make change. I can't sit here today and make that recommendation that we need to sell it today, but I can certainly say that we need to look at that option of selling that property to Mr. Perez, per what this contract is saying. But at the same time, I realize right now, today, there's a discussion about is that's legal or not to sell. So that's why I can't make that decision for the commission.
Okay, let's put aside the legality of it right now. If, as a city manager, we have the property, just assuming we don't have to sell it, I'm not even asking that question, would you be making a recommendation to sell this property?
The only way I would make a recommendation to sell this property, I would have to first see what Mr. Perez wants to do with the property moving forward in the future. If he wants to turn it into a antique car museum, we would need assurance that that agreement would have a timeline and a factor to it that we can ensure that that's what he's going to do. Here's why I say that. Mr. Perez owns the Prince Theater. When we sold Mr. Perez the Prince Theater, there were some prerequisites that went along with that. And I wasn't here, as Mr. Montgomery said, when that deal was done. But I also know that there were some things that was expected from this community that Mr. Perez was supposed to do. Has he achieved that? I haven't been in the Prince Theater to assess it, so I don't know. So if I need to make that decision, I would first have to ensure that Mr. Perez gives us a plan to show us what he's planning to do with that particular property before we sell it. That means what it's going to be in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. If he's willing to do that and provide us that plan, yes, I'd make that recommendation that we need to sell that property to Mr. Perez as a future investment in the city of Pahokee.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. Just wanted to kind of give the commission a little insight on the City Manager recommendation at this point. But again, it's not a motion or a second on the floor. We could entertain one to further discuss this, but Mr. Perez has put in a request that we sell this property. So before moving forward with the discussion, I would entertain a motion to that effect if that's the commission desire. And even if it's like a motion, at some point we can come back and address this. This is trying to take some action tonight if it's the desire of the majority of the commission.
So you're saying if we put in a motion, that's what you're...
Yeah, if there's no motion, then it's gonna die of a lack of a motion or a second. So tonight, if we wanna move forward tonight, someone need to put forth a motion
Mayor.
to sell the property to Mr. Perez. It need to be second. We'll discuss it and determine whether tonight we're gonna move forward with that.
I make the motion that we send it to Emilio Perez.
We can't make a motion to table it? I mean, for further
We're gonna
discussion?
table it.
Yeah,
That's what we did to do our job.
that could be a motion also. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion.
I made the motion.
I mean, however it goes.
Well, he's made a motion, so I don't know how that works.
I second.
You gotta wait till that motion gets out the way first, correct? So we gotta honor,
Or you-
we gotta
I
honor
need-
Vice Mayor's motion first.
Been motioned by Vice Mayor Holmes and properly seconded by Commissioner Walker that the city of Pahokee sell the property at 246 East Main Street to Mr. Perez's company.
Mr. Mayor, I'm assuming that motion would be that you sell it to them at a negotiated price
Absolutely.
after we
Absolutely.
negotiate all the terms.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely. We haven't got to that point yet.
Mr. Brandenburg, would you agree that the motion is to sell to Okeechobee Land Company, not to Mr. Perez?
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Okeechobee Land Company.
It been properly moved in second. Call for questions.
I got a question. I wasn't here also when this agreement came about. But if I'm looking at this agreement, which I read verbatim, I read the agreement. The agreement clearly states that Okeechobee Land has an option to buy this property when they want to buy it. We are liable to do that. This is what we are liable to do, unless we're gonna be facing some other legal situations. And the city of Pahokee don't need this right now. If I know you wasn't here, I don't think you was the attorney that.
No, it was
But
not.
it was an attorney that did this.
I believe it was,
And it was
yes.
recorded, am I right or wrong?
I don't know if it
Yes,
was
it was
recorded,
recorded.
but
I saw
Mr.
that.
Montgomery says it was, so
Yeah,
I
I saw it
expect it.
myself too, it was recorded.
Yeah.
So
My
it's
opinion is
legally
not
binding.
based on whether it was recorded or not. If you'd like me to explain my position.
Ma'am, out in the audience, we got some sensitive mic system, and it's gonna pick up everything you're saying when this is replayed. So if you can, please reduce your talking. Thank you.
No, so what I was saying, the contract, the way I read it, is legally binding.
I disagree with you, and the reason I disagree with you on this point is when you look at that contract, you notice that it says first option, but then it looks like the first is X'd out. I don't know if that was just on the copy I had or if it was on the original one, but that may make a difference. Secondly, to have a valid option, a contract has to have consideration, which this one does. You have to identify the property, which this one does, and you have to identify the purchase price, which this one does not. Lastly, the lease does not say anywhere that the leasee gets credit for any improvements they make on the property. So, at best, you could interpret that as meaning they have an option to come in and offer you a certain amount of money, and you have the right to go negotiate with them on that amount, and if you don't come to an agreement, you do not have to sell it to them. Because a very vital part of the option, it's like you giving somebody an option on your house. I give you an option on my house, but you don't specify the price. It doesn't mean anything.
No, you're right,
Yeah,
so that means they have the option to buy, but you got to negotiate the price. I understand that.
Right, which means if you don't agree on the price, they don't have the right to buy.
Well, we gotta get to that point first.
I'm not arguing with you on that.
You gotta get to that point.
Absolutely.
We're trying to, some of us trying to say don't even go to that point.
Okay.
Mayor, I don't think no one's trying to say not to go to that point. I don't have a problem with Mr. Perez purchasing of the 246 East Main Street. I don't have a problem with that at all. But right now, we know that this property, we got to be honest with ourselves, this property is up for questioning right now with not just, he talking about lawsuit, not just with purchasing of the property. This address right here, what they're trying to purchase is up for, I know everybody knows what's going on, but this property is up for questioning with your supervisor of election right now, with the candidate and with the leasee. The property is up for I don't have a problem with Mr. Perez, all I said is table it to the next commission meeting, which is after the election. That's it. Because right now, this property, I don't think we have a right to sell a property that's in questioning with the, as a resident address with the supervisor of election. I don't think we have a right to sell that property as of right now. That's all I'm saying. After that, which would be after the election, come back before, put it up there. Okay, let's sell Mr. Perez. That's it. But right now, I think it should be tabled until after the election goes, because the question is questioning, and they know this. Ms. Perez know this, Mr. Perez know this, that this property is in questioning with the supervisor of election.
In addition, a question from the commission.
I would like to hear some legal advice from the attorney.
We have legal advice from our attorney.
No,
That's
from
the
the-
one we need to listen to. I mean, we listen to both, but I'm just
Well,
saying.
he wants to say something, man.
Okay.
Your commissioner just raised an issue, and that issue has nothing to do with the right that Okeechobee Land has under the option of this lease.
That's right.
Now, if a commissioner has a problem, maybe that commissioner needs to recuse herself because it becomes an ethical issue. Ms. Perez has nothing to do with the purchase of this property. Whatever's going on with the supervisory election will be resolved in court. We're trying to move forward with a venture, and you read the lease, it's a 10-year lease. This is the last year. The option has to be exercised during the course of the lease. And it doesn't take a lawyer to understand the language in the lease. The language clearly indicates that Okeechobee Land has the option and that the value of the purchase is to be determined. And the only thing we're asking you to do is allow him to exercise that option, and we can negotiate what the price is. That's the only thing we're asking.
And Mr. Montgomery, I still say, I don't have a problem with that. I agree everything what you said. But why can't it be tabled until the next commission meeting? It's still not, is he still purchasing the property?
Because any deal to purchase the property won't be done until July.
No.
Are there any additional questions, comments? Commissioner Hill?
What happens after we got to vote now?
Yeah, the motion and a second, and it just come down to whether or not tonight we're willing or want to proceed with the sale of the property. Again, it's gonna take several months before this close, if it closes at all, but it's not gonna happen overnight. It's just saying you wanna move forward with it at this time.
No.
Okay, hearing no additional questions, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
No.
Commissioner Mervin?
No.
Mayor Bab?
No. Again, that don't mean at some future date this sale will occur. It means tonight this commission is not willing to move forward, at least the majority. We're gonna move to our new business, the Palm Beach County Sheriff Officer report. Thank you, sir. Also on the new business, we have the cancellation of the March 13, 2018 City Commission meeting due to the city election. I entertain a motion for the cancellation of that meeting.
Mayor, I motion to cancel the meeting for March 13, 2018.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill for the cancellation of the March 13, 2018 City Commission meeting. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Holmes,
Vote don't count anyway.
You're,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Bab,
Yes. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners.
So sad.
Vote passes unanimously. I think that was the only other new business. Am I correct, Commissioners? I haven't missed anything, have I?
that's it.
Okay, we're gonna move to our citizen comments and general concerns. Are there any comments cards from the citizens?
Yes, sir, we have 3 comment cards. Ms. Crystal Bruce,
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Actually, I thought you was gonna breast everybody on it. I did speak to, Commissioner Mervin, and I spoke to you, Mayor Bab. I didn't get a chance to reach out to you, and I know I couldn't reach him, but I eventually tell him. What actually happened today, somebody in the community, after receiving the, after we, got the speed bumps put out, the county came out there and took them off. And I didn't really do too much talking with the guy because I really wanted to like humble myself in the situation because it was painful. But Chandler came out and PBSO, AJ and Paul, wasn't it? So they'll better brief you guys on it. But all I ask is that we work together in unity to get them back because it's only a politics situation. You know, because those citizens there, like if we need a permit, we have to come to the city. When we vote, we have to come to the city. So I know it's an inside job of somebody really deep, but I mean, who goes against speed bumps to better community, you know? So anyway, take it from there, please.
Yeah, what Ms. Bruce is referencing is Seville and El Dorado. Now, as you know, these are feeder streets from Muck City Road to Old Belglade Road. And typically, when you want to cheat and not go to that flashing light because traffic is too far or too long of vehicles, they cut through Seville and El Dorado, and that's been an issue for quite some time. And what the city took upon itself to do is, one, do a quick study of what were the issues there. One, you had a speed limit that was 30 miles per hour that should have been 15 miles per hour. And two, you had heavy trucks also utilizing these two streets as a thoroughfare from Buck City Road to Old Belglade Road. And so these are annexed properties of the city of Pahokee, have been for quite some time. And we thought more than our right to, one, assess and install speed bumps, which we did at a tune of almost $3,000. And it worked effectively. We changed the speed signs. We installed speed bumps on both ends of Seville. That was the first street that we worked on. And there was a significant improvement in safety and slowing those vehicles down. Well, lo and behold, apparently when parts of Seville and El Dorado was annexed, the county is now claiming, well, they still own the street. And so they came out without conversation with the city, and they pretty much, they ripped the speed bumps out of the concrete. And they not only took them up, they were destroyed. And so we're in communication with the county administrator and with Melissa McKinley's office, and we'll have a solution to this issue fairly soon. I don't think it's going to be a difficult task to get speed bumps on those two streets in the city of Pahokee, even though they're currently being claimed as county streets. And I did see the record where the county does own the streets. They're still responsible for the maintenance. You know, it's one of those issues where the residents there are Pahokee residents, but the street belongs to the county. And so you know, we're gonna work it out. We'll get with Virginia's staff and we'll get with McKinley's staff and we'll work it out. But somebody got to pay for my $3,000 speed bumps that the city purchased, and it won't be the city of Pahokee. And so we'll have a conversation with the county expediently to come to a resolution. Lisa Wilson's here tonight. She represents Melissa McKinley. They've already started working on this issue, but we think we'll come to a viable and agreeable solution fairly quickly here.
I did forget, sorry, I did speak with Melissa McKinney, and she did have Lisa to, reach out to her, so they are, working on it as well. Sorry about that.
In addition to that, I went to the county and I just asked them to give me a map of all the streets that they are claiming they maintenance. Because the reason why we installed those speed bumps is we were told by our building and planning department that when that was annexed, those streets belong to the city of Pahokee, and that's why we moved forward. But the county has a different record. So there's a difference of opinion here in who maintains the street and who owns it at the current time.
One thing we can ask for is those streets to be resurfaced if they do own by the county.
That's
that
correct.
Should be at the top of our list.
Yes. So we'll work with the county and we'll resolve this issue fairly quickly here.
Mr. Crawford, going by the cards, okay.
Prior to y'all putting down the speed bump, I had already contacted the county in reference to that. And I got a letter at the house where they sent me in reference to the study that they did in reference to those two streets. And I don't have the guy's name exactly, but his only letter I will give it, and I will try to get him this challenge, but he, in hindsight, told me if we, the citizens of that area, decided to put down speed bump, and we came up with the funds, cause he told us to reach out to the city, but I never did get a response back from anybody from the city when I did it. So he said if we wanted to do such as put speed bumps down, it wouldn't be an issue. So I would get that guy's name, and I would get a copy of the letter, and I would forward it over to you guys, so you can have something to reference this. He was the supervisor of the road and bridge with Palms County Law.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, are there any additional comment cards?
Yes, sir. Ms. Sarah Perez.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Perez. My address is 246 East Main Street, Pahokee, Florida. I'm running for Commissioner Group 2 for the city of Pahokee. The reason why we are being fought on this address is because allegations have been made that it's not a residential. That issue is aside. The reason why my opponent here, the one that I'm running against, okay, she has not spent a dime campaigning, only the filing fee, because she's banking on me being disqualified so that she could stay in the seat. So she's got the other commissioners that are working around town. They're getting petitions around. Benny, the entire church, yes, there is a petition around trying to get me disqualified. And shame on you. Shame on you, because when you came to talk to us, you said that you wanted the best for this city. And you know that I'm better for the job than Felicia Hill, because in the 6 years she's been a commissioner, she has not done a thing for this city. Go to any commission, any meetings that's around to bring things for this city. Does she attend any of them? No, she doesn't. But you're trying to fight. And it started in the city. It started when they typed the complaint, and they had a member of the community sign it. They took it. They hand-delivered it to the supervisor of election. And everything has been done behind my back. Everybody was notified, and I was the last one to be notified. I went to her and I asked her before I ran, is there an issue before I spend money in this campaign? She has not spent not one penny. Not one penny, only the filing fee. But that's who you want? That's what you want? That's where your heart is? Shame on you, because you're supposed to be a church lady. You're supposed supposed to be God-fearing lady. Yes, yes, smile, smile. I am so disappointed on you. So disappointed. But it's okay. I want everybody that's watching on YouTube, I want everybody to know I'm still on the ballot. They're counting on me being disqualified. I am fighting, and I'm going to fight to the end because I believe in this city, and I believe that I'm the best person for that seat. I am. And everybody that's watching, see it. Come and cast your vote. Come and cast it, because this fight's not over. I'm not going to give up. I am not going to give up. I am going to be sitting in that chair.
Come on in. Thank you, Ms. Perez. Commissioner Mervin, your name was brought up, so you can come in if you like, ma'am.
All I have to say, Mayor, all of that was said, great. The question is the selling of the 246 East Main. All I said was,
Ms. Perez, you're out of order, ma'am.
Mr. Perez, I have no problem with you buying of the selling of 246 East Main Street. I said that it'll be on the agenda on the next commission meeting that's after the election.
Thank you,
Mayor,
Commissioner.
let me say something. On that, it was brought up that there was a petition going around, and it was. One of my friends said, one of the guys that's running against me, and they were one running against me, took the petition to him, and he told him, I don't dislike Ms. Perez. I'm not gonna do this. It's sad that this been started. It has to stop. This underhand stuff has to stop.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hill, I don't want to prolong this, but I'm going to give you the same opportunity since your name was mentioned. If you want to make any comments, you don't have to, but if you like.
I'm sure just for the people that know me, they know better.
Ms. Perez, you're out of order, ma'am.
I'm sure for the people that know me, they know better. I will continue to pray, trust and believe. I love my city just as much. I was just saying next card.
Thank you. Are there any additional cards, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jason Crawford.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Jason Crawford, 8846 Eldorado Drive. My comment is, I wanted to bring the issue up before the commission and the members of PBSO that be at commission meeting. It's a terrible problem with the officers that police the city of Pahokee. Because it done happened to me on several occasions where in situations where they're not on a police call or there's not an emergency going on, they tend to park 2, 3, 4 cars side by side in the road, blocking and impeding the right of way in traffic. One night I was leaving the bank, coming down, I guess that Main Street, whatever road that is that go past Buddy White. And the way the cars was parked, the last car was out in my lane, so it made me have to go over into the other lane. And a car was coming, and I couldn't see it because the way the police car was parked. And, we had to swerve to keep from hitting each other. Me, being me, I turned around and I addressed the officers that was standing there because they were just standing on the sidewalk, chit-chat, hold a conversation. I'm like, now, I just need to ask a question. Do you feel that the way you are parked and how you have your car out in the impeding flow of traffic, do you feel like that is safe? You don't have any lights or indications or, they have the little flashing warning lights that go on in the back. None of that. A couple of nights later, I was coming down, I went to go take my kids to get some barbecue from uptown. Coming down past the blue store, what everybody call it. 2 cars parked, heading, north. The 3rd car, he's parked in the southbound lane. Then you got a pickup truck he's like, he whipped in like they was like they was trying to block somebody in, but it was nobody there but the police cars. And the tail end of his truck sticking out in the road. And I, being myself, I went back, I said, excuse me, I said, if I was to park like that, would I get a ticket? Oh no, you can do it, oh, because it's you can do it. You know, jokingly, but my thing is, it's a serious issue that somebody needs to address. Because being law enforcement, if you want me and the rest of the citizens in this Pahokee to abide and go by the rules of the law, you have to do the same. And especially then, the second thing is the way that the officers in this city talk and treat citizens in the city is ridiculous. I actually saw an officer, a young man walk past him. The officer spoke, the young man, okay, he has a right not to speak or not to speak. I sat there and watched this officer like harass this guy and like almost threatened him to take him to jail. Then made statements, well, oh, if I wasn't in this uniform and if all these guys was up here, you wouldn't be acting all hard. I actually got the guy, put him in my car and dropped him off home, you know, because I was in fear with the rash of things that's going on with police and citizens, especially young black men being killed, you know what I'm saying? So I took the young man home.
Mr. Crawford, your time is up, but I would encourage you to do a official complaint report with the Palm Beach County. They're gonna look at that, and I would encourage anyone who have a concern, a problem with them, that's a mechanism. They're gonna review that. I think the officers are jotting down that. Even if you don't know the names, the date, the time, and the location, they can determine who were the officers involved. Our city manager's here. He has extensive dialogue with Palm Beach County Sheriff, so he would share that concern. But I'm just encouraging the public as a whole, when you do encounter a problem or complaints, make sure you officially do a complaint log and submit it.
Mayor, if I could, sir, as a representative of this organization, sir, probably one of the most progressive law enforcement agencies in the state of Florida, I apologize to you. That is unacceptable behavior. One of our command sergeants is sitting in the back of the room, and he has heard your complaints and concerns. I can assure you that the message that I just jotted down, I'll have a conversation with Sergeant Ortiz, and it'll get up to the captain. It is unacceptable. We are not permitted to break the law. There are times when we speed to catch a speeder. There are times when we speed to catch a person that's committing a crime. But for us to block a roadway is not acceptable, and it doesn't authorize us to do it by being in this uniform or the car. We tell people all the time that if you see something, say something as it relates to crime. If you see something that we are doing inappropriate, say something. Our command staff is very progressive, and we don't tolerate those type of behaviors at all.
Well, I did call into the Belgrade. Proud of you. Proud of you.
Yes,
I made
job.
a complaint down at Belgrade, and they say, oh, we can only see, and I was told that by somebody that works in law enforcement, a friend of mine, say that if an officer closes his laptop, he goes invisible on the screen.
No,
I
sir.
don't know how
No,
that
sir.
works, but it
No,
like,
sir.
if they do this and do that, but it
Right.
happens
Right.
more often than not
Right.
in the city of Pahokee, and I just wanted to bring it to my commission.
Yes, sir.
And the powers to be, so everybody can be aware of what's going on in the community, and we can start policing the police.
Yes, sir. And it will be addressed.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Madam Clerk, are there any additional comments cards?
Yes, sir, Miss Catherine Mervez.
Hi, thank you for having me back again. And the reason I just gave my card up late is because of this discussion that's come up with Ms. Perez, I guess, about what's going on with the property and everything. I'm not sure of everything that's going on. I have been talking to all of the candidates and people to find out, because my vote is very important to me, and it needs to be an informed vote. I don't vote for friends and family unless I agree with their politics. So that's just the way I was raised, and that's what I need to do. I did see a letter or a memo on City of Pahokee letterhead that stated that if I voted for Sarah Perez, my vote would not be counted. So I just want to know, is that an actual letter that the city put out? It was a
Yes,
memo.
that information came from the supervisor of election office, so we have an obligation to share that information with the public. You are correct. It did state that. The information came to the clerk, and she
Okay.
just posted it for the
Yeah, I
community.
just have a fear that, elections are run based on candidates and where they stand and what they stand for. And in all fairness, I'm not so sure that the supervisor of elections is the best judge either, based on her history, but that's just my personal opinion. And the other thing is I just want you to make sure that there is no conflict of interest, no anything that could paint you in a bad situation. Okay, we need to have transparency, and we need to make sure that the city of Pahokee is doing things correctly. Because not only do you want to increase the viability of your city, but you also need to take care of your reputation. And it's a little bit crazy now. I know it's difficult to handle, but everybody needs to be fair. And there is no, I'm seeing a large division between, it's almost like camps. Well, I vote for them, I vote for them. It's like, all right, that's fine. Everybody has their right to vote, but we should not be impeding people's votes based on something. I mean, is that a done deal, or is it still under investigation?
Yes, that decision is totally up to the supervisor of election office. A complaint came to the city. It was forwarded to the election office. We had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with it. We don't even do an initial investigation on our own. We forward that information, they make the determination. So when you make the statement whether it's a final decision, that would have to be addressed to Palm Beach County Supervisor Election Office.
So there is no final decision that's been made?
As far as I'm aware, there is a final decision, but the interpretation, again, you'd have to follow up with that to make sure, look, I want to make sure my vote count. Is this the final decision?
And also, I want, I wish there had been more information in that memo that came out from the city, because it just said a candidate, your vote doesn't count. I didn't know who the candidate was at that point when I first saw it, so it was a little confusing.
Yes, again, the information was shared with us, so we put it out identical to what the supervisor election provided us with. It wasn't any long detail of why, explanation of why they provided us that. We provided to the public. But thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional comment card, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, citizen, for your comments and concerns. Now we'll go to the correspondence, comments, concerns of the city commissioners. And I'll start with Commissioner Walker. Thank you, ma'am. Vice Mayor Holmes.
Good night, citizens.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mervin.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Hill.
Good night, citizens.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd just like to say to the audience, you did a great job. There was a large meeting, and you behaved very well. Thank you.
Good night, honey.